What's up, summoners? King Blair here. Today we're gonna be doing our second Epic 7 storyline, this time talking about the 7th World Archdemon War and the events that occurred before Ross woke up in episode 1. So if you liked the video, make sure you like, subscribe, and join the Discord server. For the Epic 7 story times, I know you guys like it, but make sure you show your support for the story times. These videos actually tend to do the worst out of all my content, but I know a lot of you guys want to keep seeing them, so make sure you comment and show your support for me to keep doing this in the future and keep doing the story times. As well, if you would like to support the channel financially, consider becoming a member of the channel. But without further ado, let's get right into it. For today's storyline, I mentioned it's going to be over the 7th Archdemon War. As far as the topics and how the video will be broken down, we will first see what happened in the 6th world a little bit, discuss that before we see the events of the 7th world and what happened in the Archdemon War, particularly Deanne's story. And we'll also see some of the random things that happen around the same time that kind of lead up to the events in episode 1 and, of course, episode 2. But without further ado, let's just dive into it. Before we talk about what happened in the 7th world, we also have to take a look at what happened in the 6th world. So I mentioned a lot of this in the hierarchy of Epic 7 in the previous story time, but just as a quick recap on how we got to the 7th world. So as we know, in the 6th world, the battle between the Archdemon and the heir of the Covenant has been reoccurring for ages, and it happens every 100 years or so. In the current war, right now in the 6th world, we see Ross with Bildred and Kisa and Light, which we'll see in a second. We're trying to end the Archdemon. They're fighting the main fight. They're about to reach the end. Ross, right now, from all the other wars, Ross has always been the one to end them. So everyone always puts their life in Ross's hands. They trust the heir of the Covenant, that the heir of the Covenant will deliver them from the Archdemon. So you see them, they're like, we're going to all go together, we're going to do this together, the heirs are all coming together. Another important event that takes place at this time, as they're going to the sanctuary, Bildred is staying back to hold the enemy, but Kayron comes in and begins to poison Bildred. It seems here that Bildred has been killed, but we find later that he is poisoned, and this will come up later on as we get to the 7th world. So in the 6th world, Kayron does poison Bildred and does start planting the seed of mistrust within Bildred, and will later be shown in the 7th world. The other thing, as far as to what happened in the 7th world, the fight was a rough one. Ross, there of the Covenant, who's supposed to protect the world from the Archdemon, is not going to be able to do it in the 6th world. As we see here, the heirs and the guardians are fighting the Archdemon as they've done several times in the past, different storylines all through the world, and have done it for the past 5 worlds. We see the Guardians here fighting with them. Light, of course, fighting with her Guardian Sino. We see there the Archdemon is fighting against the Guardians, and Light is going to fight with the Guardian Sino to try to end it. This war seems to be all but over. It looks like the heir of the Covenant would have been successful within this war. It looks like we did it. We're done. And we see here Kayron with Bildred. That's like, you literally are just redoing this all the time, because only, if we remember from before, only Ross and the Guardians really know, and the Acolytes, what really is happening. So very big things are happening. We see here Sino is about to die, and Light is going to be protecting him, but because of that, she does lose her life. And we see here Ross is shooketh. He couldn't do it. You know, the Archdemon officially has won. We see Ross has officially died, and it's over. And so the final part of the Archdemon in 6th world, Ross does lose, which leads DJ to reset the world of Orbis at the time before the war, which will lead us to the event of the 7th world. So now that we know the 6th world was over, how did the Archdemon war happen in the 7th world? So since we know DJ is losing a lot of power from having to reset the world so many times, Ross is actually not going to be there for the Archdemon 7th war. All through the history of Orbis, Ross has always been the one to defeat the Archdemon and save the world from the Archdemon. But this time Ross does not wake up. When the player actually plays the game, it's 20 years after the Archdemon war in the 7th world ended. Ross is super late to actually coming to save the world. So how did the humans do it? What happened, and how were they able to actually stop the Archdemon the first time before the events of episode 1 took place? You may be wondering, how did this happen? We actually find out how that occurs through the Annie's backstory in the Eulogy of a Saint. So if you guys didn't know, Diane is the queen of Ezra, and you see her grown up since 20 years have passed with her son Aether. We do see her in that episode 1, but how did she do it? How was she able to rally humans together to fight the Archdemon war? So I'm going to show you guys a clip of like a quick super fast overview of the Annie storyline, and then just going into depth a little bit more, talking about the main key points. There's a lot of different storylines that occur, but just the main key points. So in the trailer for the Eulogy of a Saint, which is Deannie's storyline, as we mentioned, Deannie was a nun of the Blue Cross. She was just chilling with the Blue Cross, with Angelica. Montmorency wasn't around at the time, Arcades wasn't around at the time, but it's the same branch that they work in, same branch that Clarissa works in, which is the Order of the Blue Cross. Her job was just to go around and heal people, and she met a lot of people through the way, and she always felt like she was a very small person, that all she could do is try to heal others. But in her journeys with Bossk, she actually meets a lot of people and makes the difference and rally humans. So let's just see the clip of what happens. So as we mentioned, she just travels around with Bossk. We see Vildred, Craw, everyone. But as we know, the Archdemon is coming. The Archdemon descends without Ross being there to protect the world. So it's up to the humans, Charles, Vildred, Craw, Deannie, the heroes of the 7th world, without the help of Ross, are stopping the fight and going extremely hard to stop the Archdemon. And of course, we see at the end Deannie's sad face, and we'll cover those what happened in the war in a second. But so how did it happen? How did it get to this war, and why is Deannie such a big part of it? So essentially, if very, very deep story cut short, very heart-wrenching moments. Essentially what happened is Deannie wanted to make a difference. She was like, I may not be powerful, but if we all rally together, we can actually stop the Archdemon. And the one race that she knew had the power to help them is actually the Nocturnes. So there's no art of her, but there is an artifact that actually shows the leader of the Nocturnes at the time, which is going to be Saskia. So the person you see there is Saskia. We also saw her in Kisa's backstory. But Saskia is the current leader of the Nocturnes, and when Deannie says, we need your help to stop the Archdemon, Saskia tells Deannie what that means for the Nocturnes, for them to be able to seal the Archdemon and stop the Archdemon from destroying them. The Nocturnes have very strong barrier powers. They're a race that has insane amount of powers, and is above the humans. They do remember the events that happen in other worlds and have been around for generations, so they have seen the Archdemon war several times. And Saskia lets Deannie know that the only way that the Nocturnes can actually seal the Archdemon is by sacrificing the life of the race. It would take several Nocturne lives to even get close to sealing the Archdemon, and Deannie understands this, but knows that there is no other way or the world would end, but she also has to accept the wishes of the Nocturnes. So she's like, I am going to find another way. Before she leaves the Nocturnes, Saskia remembers what happened with Kise and the mistakes that she did by not protecting Kise or to remember Kise's memory. She decides that her and the Nocturnes are going to help in the Archdemon war, so they tell Deannie, we are going with you. Before going with her to where the Archdemon resides to lock the Archdemon, Saskia actually locks Ludwig in the place of the Nocturnes so that Ludwig cannot leave, so one member of the race will still survive, since he still cares very deeply for Ludwig. So Ludwig is sealed off. The Nocturnes go with Deannie, and they are able to seal off the Archdemon. As we saw in the fight, massive fight, Vildred, Craw, everyone was there, all the big players, and of course a lot of sacrifices were made to actually make this work. So Bask does lose his life. Bask lays down his life for Diani's cause and for what she did to try to protect the Archdemon, as well as all the Nocturne race sacrifice themselves to stop the Archdemon and are successful in blocking it. Bildred almost does mess it up for everyone, as we knew from before. Charon is already starting to pollute Bildred. Bildred does start fighting, and that's one of the big reasons why Bask actually dies, is because Bildred got taken over, starts attacking his allies, and caused Charon to get a lot closer to stopping the Nocturne ritual that would seal the Archdemon. So Bask, the Nocturnes all lose their life, and we're starting to see Bildred being taken over and that seed of mischief being planted very, very deep. But that is all for this Archdemon War. Let's cover some side events that also happen and also set up what is going to happen once we get to episode 1. So now that we covered the events that happened in the 7th Archdemon War at a very high level, there's a lot of different stories. Let's cover some other stories and some of the outcomes to better understand the dynamic of the world of Epic 7 from when the player actually starts the game. So when we get to episode 1, we know everyone is pissed at Ross. So why? Why is everyone mad at Ross? Why does everyone hate Ross, or why do they just not care about him? And why is the world so messed up after the Archdemon War? What happened? Why was all this stuff happen? So to do that, I'll take some of the things that actually happened within those 20 years before Ross woke up, so you guys get a better idea of why the world is just absolutely messed up right now at the events before episode 2. So first, let's see why people are the good things. So let's start with the good, right? So some of the good stories, if you guys didn't know, Dark Orbis had given up all hope. He was like, you know what? I've lost so many people trying to fight the Archdemon. This world has no hope, so I'm just gonna join the Archdemon and bring end to this world. He was very disillusioned with the way that the world was. He thought that there was no hope. He knew that the Heir of the Covenant was just like sleeping. He was like, it's over, right? But because of Diani and all the sacrifices people make, the Nocturnes dying, all the people that give up their life to fight, he does actually end up going back to being regular Corvus. He has hope for humanity. We were able to do this humanity as their own. There's still good in the world, so I will fight for the good that is left. I will fight for Queen Diani. So Diani was a very big symbol of peace and prosperity. So a lot of people did find their way in the darkness. You know, whenever there's big darkness, there's also great light. In this case, everyone looked up to Diani because of her sacrifices and her guidance. A lot of people actually turned good. So this is the good that came out of the Archdemon War. A lot of people are more independent of Ross. They don't need the Heir of the Covenant. They know that there's good in other people and that they can do it themselves. So that's a good to come out of the war. Now, the other one is to see why the world dynamic. So why is the world so messed up? So there's a bunch of stuff that people did wrong during the Archdemon War. A lot. But no one says it better than the one person, Cowric. So the Church of Ezra. So if you guys know, the fight was happening in Ezra. So the Church of the Goddess, which is what basically they praise Nietzsche and praise Ross, the Heir of the Covenant that's supposed to deliver them. They didn't have Ross, right? So they needed people to fight in the war instead. So they went to other countries and drafted young men with the promise of prosperity and glory in the war if they helped in the war. Cowric was one of the people that actually went and became an enhanced mage. These enhanced mages were critical in the fight against the Archdemon because they were able to just do so much more work than everyone else. But at the end of the war, the Church of the Gods was like, oh, we don't know who you are, you're heretics, we're gonna destroy you. And that happened a lot. A lot of people were branded heretics, were branded as like people who didn't fight in the Archdemon War because of political gain. So the world is really messed up. The people that were supposed to, like, you know, you helped fight, here's the thank you, they were like, no, we don't know who you are. So that's kind of messed up. So we can see why Cowric also hates Ross. We see why people hate the Church of the Goddess, because they essentially drafted him to a war and then basically cast him away. So the world is in a really bad spot, especially Ezra, which is where you play as Ross at the start of the game. There's a lot of other terrible things that are happening in Terranor and all through Ezra. So it's just terrible. You know, the world is super corrupt from before Ross wakes up. And lastly, let's see at why everyone has even more reason to hate Ross. So the first one was the good thing, people are becoming more independent. The second one, people don't trust the Church of the Goddess, and Ross is an embodiment of the Church of the Goddess, so people hate Ross there. But now let's see the heirs that actually have very good reason to hate Ross. So Iseria, another story we didn't see during the Archdemon War. Iseria is an heir, but she was so scared to fight the Archdemon that when Nigel attacked her hometown with the elves, Iseria ran away like a little scaredy cat, because I don't want to get demonetized, but you guys know what I mean. She ran away like a scaredy cat. She was like, I'm not going to take up my arms as the heir. Her sister, I'm not sure who it was, but I think it was her sister, Saria, is very disappointed in her. But Iseria just runs away. She doesn't fight, leaves Iseria and her people to stay there. She's like, we have to run away, we can't do anything. Because of Tiani's actions, we do know that Saria survived and actually became leader, and a lot of the elves survived, but because of that, Iseria essentially is ousted out. But you can see why she would hate Ross. Because Ross wasn't there, her people, bunch of her people died, and she was essentially outcast. So, of course, more hate to Ross, and I don't blame him. And the other one is Ludwig. I really don't have to go too into this one. Imagine your whole family dying, everyone you know, everyone you care about, giving up their life because someone didn't do their job. And if you ever met that someone who was the reason why everyone lost their lives, of course you would hate them. So it makes 100% sense why Ludwig hates Ross. His whole race freaking died because Ross was sleeping. And a lot of people feel this way about Ross. So a lot of people actually hate Ross or just think Ross is like, why is he still here? He didn't help us stop the Archdemon. All he did was sleep. So why is Ross here? So before you even start the storyline, everyone is anti-Team Ross. Everyone doesn't like the Church of the Goddess. Everything is just like in shambles. So that's what we're leaving events of episode 1. So we will end that today with that. And let's skip over to the conclusions. But this should give you guys a better idea for when we get to the events of episode 1. That is all I have for you guys today. I hope you all enjoyed this version of Storytime. The next story time will be the events of episode 1. So you guys, we're gonna go through the whole storyline. If you want to see more specific storylines of certain characters, since the Danny storyline, it was very cut short. There was a lot more that actually happened that I wasn't able to cover. I just covered the key points. But again, story time videos don't actually get that much support. So show your support if you like these story times. Comment down below. Tell me how awesome they are and how you want to keep seeing more to motivate me to keep doing this. But that is all I have for you guys, and I will see y'all next time. Peace.